Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kim Jacobs Show. I am so glad to have you all tune in today. I have with me Mr. Charles Catchings. How are you over there, Mr. Charles?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, you know, I told you backstage how I'm feeling, but I'll be
Yeah.
okay. So I'm a big person to believe that no excuses, we make results. So I am excited to have you, the mind barber, on this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Listen, as you all come into the studio, make sure you grab your seats, your virtual seats, and share today's broadcast with your friends, your coworkers, church family, community members, people that you know need to see today's show. We're going to be talking about some pretty deep stuff, and I want no one to miss this opportunity to hear this information. And Charles, also, I forgot to tell you backstage that if you have a different device, you're welcome to share from my Facebook page this broadcast with your followers as well. So if you just see right where I am on my page, on the Kim Jacobs page, you'll be able to share it over. And Morgan, thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to you as we go in because I know that you are sharing a lot of statistics and information backstage, and I greatly appreciate your help today. Morgan is a student at NC State and has been volunteering with the Kim Jacobs Show. Okay, so we are going to jump right in to today's broadcast. Let me introduce my special guest, Mr. Charles Catchings. Is First of all, I want to make sure everybody's on because I don't want anybody to miss out on hearing the introduction. That would defeat the whole purpose. Okay. So I see you guys coming in perfect. Okay. Charles Catchings is an addictions counselor and intake specialist with 12 years of addictions counseling experience. He works primarily with the prison population, men that are re entering society, and residential clients facing life threatening consequences. He's a mental health advocate who shares his personal story of overcoming some things that he'll talk to you about on this broadcast instead of me just revealing it in his bio. And he works with the Barbershop Group, which is a nonprofit organization that's focused on mental, spiritual, physical, financial, and social needs of men. Welcome, Charles Catchings, to the Kim Jacobs Show.
Thank you, Kim, for having me today. I really appreciate spending some time with you, and it's an honor to be able to share some things of value with people today.
Well, thank you for coming on. Listen, I want us to jump right in because, you know, it takes a special man, in my opinion, a special Black man, to care about the needs and the mental health and the mental stability of other African American men. Already I can feel kind of emotional because I'm a Black female and I have a lot of men in my life. I have four
Yeah.
sons, my
Mm,
husband, I have my brothers, and so it's very important to me to know and understand how they think and what triggers them and what agitates them and what helps them become their best selves. So I'm excited to have you on today, just even from a personal perspective. So let's talk about your journey, Charles. Where did you come from? I mean, I never met you. I'm meeting you right now on the show. I don't know anything about Charles Catching, so take me back, way back to where you began.
oh wow. Well, I mean, they, I don't even know where to start, but yeah, I think to make it quick, a lot of people say, "How did you get started in this work?" And well, was I was abused as a child on two separate occasions. My mom and I, for a time, we were homeless, and so we kind of bounced around. And in that bouncing around, I was exposed to some people who were friends of the family, but who weren't safe. And that was the first kind of like, whoa, what was that experience like? What just happened to me? I'll never forget. I always tell the story in some of my groups about this man giving me some candy and him smelling like feces. And I was like, why does this man smell like feces? And didn't realize at the time, that he had been fondling me. And it was just like eye opening, like, what just happened? Uh, just being completely humiliated and embarrassed as like a 5-year old. So traumatic experience there. Later on in life, probably about 11 years old, I was raped by a cousin of mine. And this was in an environment where there was a lot of mental abuse, emotional abuse that was already happening because of some family dynamics. And that really, at that time, that's when this thing called shame kind of set in for me. And I started to just have some really, really bad thoughts about who I was as a human being, and who I was as a kid, as a black person, right? Um, Later on, I it was like just experience after experience kind of layered on. Um, when I was about 16 is when the sexual experiences started to come back up, because at that time, now I'm involved with girls,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to be like every other guy at that
Right.
time and experiencing the hormones and, sexual interest and things like that. But I've got some pieces to the puzzle missing. And when I discovered that those pieces to the puzzle were missing, it was so bad for me that I fell into depression and became suicidal. And at 16 years old, I had made a plan to kill myself, and wrote a letter to my family. And crazy thing is, girlfriend at the time, her mom found the letter in my notebook and informed my parents. My parents got in touch with the school counselor, and this process began of trying to figure out what was going on. Now, at that time, my parents had still not known anything about the sexual abuse. My father was,
Oh,
my
so
father was,
nobody knew. Nobody
no,
knew. You were 16 at this point, and
yes.
everything that had happened to you when you were 5 and 11, you kept that bottled up to yourself. Nobody was able to help you through that journey.
Well, I mean, I didn't even look for people to help. In fact, what I did, and what many children do, Kim, is when they have experiences like that, they develop their own safety net. Okay, they begin to act in a way to protect themselves. So, a child doesn't necessarily talk, because talking may mean that they will be put in further harm. Okay,
Right.
so you begin to operate in a way, in a bubble, just to protect yourself from all the things that could potentially happen to you again. And for me, growing up with a father who is extremely black conscious, extremely angry, impatient as a younger father, I knew I couldn't tell my dad about something that happened in the family. That I just, in fact, I thought I would be blamed for it, get in trouble for it, because I used to get in trouble for weird stuff that I didn't do. And so when you add those blocks together, it could only come my way, right?
Wow.
So 16,
But I
I,
need to ask you a question for a second before you
yeah,
go on. Okay, so here you're thinking as a young person that you might get blamed only because you know of other dynamics in your family that lead to the fact that I've already been kind of labeled this weird kind of guy and things
yeah.
that's been happening along my journey already. So if I dare say this, this is going to come back and bite me,
Oh,
basically, as
absolutely.
a problem. So wow. Okay. So just so I understand, when you're dealing with something at this level, and I should definitely put a precursor out. If you have children that's watching today's episode, be mindful that some of the information and content may be a little more graphic in our discussion, and you might want to click off of this particular broadcast on and watch it as an adult, and then censor it for your child. So keep that in mind as well. But I do want to understand then how would what signs would a parent look for if you are a parent of a child and they're not going to reveal it, because you're saying exactly the key element that you didn't reveal it.
Mhm.
And so how can a parent ever know? How could your dad ever know if you don't reveal it?
Right. Well, I mean, he wouldn't. Parents have to be extremely present. A lot of the things that we learn in our parenting roles, or think that are right in our parenting roles, don't necessarily help children experience their own lives, right? We have parental expectations of children, and when those expectations aren't met, sometimes our own defenses come up, you
Right.
know. So instead of being present and really sitting with the child and listening, just being a sounding board for the child, we're ready to respond, ready to tell the child how things really are, and what was real and what wasn't, and no, this didn't happen, and yes, that did happen. Because really what we're doing is we're acting out our own defense mechanisms as
Right.
parents, right? If something bad happened to one of our children, or if our children did something, that was, maybe they made some type of mistake or error. A lot of times we take that on as a parent and we think, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? That parental shame starts to come out. So
Mhm.
a lot of times, kids who experience abuse and stuff like that, they're already looking at their parents and going, you know what, yeah, mom, dad, they're not going to be able to deal with this, or they're going to be upset with me, or they're going to be angry with me, or they're going to call me this or that, or they won't believe me. There's a lot of that goes on. It's extremely common.
So then you technically being exposed to the person over and over again in some, I don't know about in your situation, but I know in general family situations, if the parent doesn't know, then they're like, let's go. We're ready to go on a family gathering. Let's go visit auntie, uncle. And this is the perpetrator in some regards. So how
Yeah.
this is so beyond my understanding
Mhm.
because you're constantly exposing your child in your case
Yeah.
to the same culprit, the person that caused the harm.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a really, really treacherous pathological cycle. Um, because, again, we've got the expectations of what family is supposed to look like, what the
Right.
way uncle is supposed to behave, the way auntie is supposed to behave, if you're a child, the way you're supposed to interact with your elders and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So when something traumatic like sexual abuse comes up, I mean, the child is at a disadvantage if we're trying to hold on to all those historical shoulda, coulda, wouldas in a family.
Right, right.
You see, and that's something that, from an African American standpoint, that's something that we are in the midst of trying to retool and redirect people away
Right.
from. And it's extremely difficult because we're responding to racism over hundreds of years and secrecy over hundreds of years and lack of knowledge and education over hundreds of years. I mean, poverty over hundreds of years. When you add all of those things together,
That's
the
right.
last thing that parents are really trying to do is sit down, have a conversation with a child where something is revealed that may shock the family, but ultimately lead towards healing. A lot of people don't even have time for it because they're just trying to survive.
Wow. Wow. So okay, so now this has happened. You take us further. You're
Mhm.
because now you're Charles Catchings, this person that's so passionate about helping other men.
Yeah.
So what brought you to that
Yeah.
place?
So, at 16, I had an aunt who had been clinically diagnosed with depression. And we used to always talk. And she got a hold of me. She found out what was going on. Incidentally, my dad thought that my aunt was crazy. I do the air quotes crazy because she liked white men. I just thought that was crazy in itself, but okay, fine. But anyway, we talked and she started getting me more help.
Okay.
And that led to me initially seeing another counselor and realizing, okay, you've had some things happen to you that were not normal.
That's
Let's
right.
talk about some of that stuff if you're willing to. From there, it was kind of like in and out of therapy, in and out. It wasn't a constant thing because there was a lot of shame that I had
Right.
regarding going to therapy. I was like, I'm not crazy. I don't need this. You see what I'm saying? I just wanted to be like every other guy, be macho, get the girls, be cute, that type of thing, right?
Right.
And but I remember the counselor telling me at the time, she was like, you've got to break free of some things. And so it's a funny thing now thinking back. I can't remember how old I was, but the movie Waiting to Exhale came out.
Oh
And
yeah.
she had a challenge for me. And she said, you don't get to go to the movie with the girl or any other friends. You've got to go to the movie theater by yourself and you have to take yourself to dinner afterwards. And
Okay.
I was just like, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? I'm not doing that. Like, what's wrong with you? And what she was trying to do was she was trying to help me understand a little bit about self-worth, value, about being okay alone, about being safe,
Mhm.
not needing people around to validate me and stuff like that. So, now you fast forward around about, I want to say around 24, 25 years old, I moved to New York, to New York. get married, right? And
Mhm.
I ended up I ended up working with some guys who were doing prescription drugs. And at the time, they weren't called prescription drugs. It wasn't like this opioid thing. It was
Right.
before that. You know, we were working together for 10, 12 hours a day together in these small rooms. And it was nothing to pop a pill and keep it moving. You had a
Hmm.
little headache, you popped a pill, you kept it moving. And
Mhm.
we were working in a grocery retail environment. So we had access to like prescription medicine.
Right.
Okay. And, it was just, you just did it. You just did it. And I remember I was playing ball one time and ruptured my Achilles tendon. Well, when I did that, I had to have surgery.
Okay.
And that gave me more access to more
The more
painkillers and everything.
painkillers.
Yes,
Mm.
yes. And I'll never forget taking so many of them that I couldn't use the bathroom. Like my organs were basically like not functioning.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, but I love the feeling. I
Mm.
love like it was great because I could
Mm.
just zone out. I got rid of the pain and I'm high,
Mm.
right? But it was embarrassing because I couldn't use the bathroom, right? And I had my mother-in-law at the time, right? She came to the house and was like making all of these down home remedies to try to help me go.
Right. Right. Right.
and I couldn't
Moms know
say,
best.
yeah, but I couldn't tell the real truth. And the real truth was that, I was just swallowing these pills left and right like it was
Mm.
candy. Okay. But I realized, dude, you know what? You got a problem. In fact, because I was using them before I had surgery, when I woke up from surgery, they said to me, they were like, we don't know what happened, but you had a bad reaction to the medicine that we gave you, and that's
Mm.
not really normal. And I couldn't figure out why my whole lip and everything, it was bloodied, it was bit up and all.
Mm.
And she was like, we got some questions for you. And I was just like, okay. And she said, did the doctor prescribe you medicine before the surgery? I was like, yeah, I gave you guys a script. And she was like, uh-huh, yeah. And she said, well, how much did you take? And I told
Mm.
her at the time that I lost some of it.
Oh, okay.
Right. Told her that I lost some of it. So the medicine that they had previously given me didn't work well when they put me under. And they were just kind of like, you know what? Something's off.
Something, and
Yes.
they saw the triggers and the signs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And at that point, I realized that I had a problem.
Mm.
Okay. And I had co-occurring issues at the time. Not only was I using pain meds, like, in a way that was very harmful, but I was also binging on pornography. Okay. When I got hurt and couldn't work, I'm sitting at the house 8, 9 hours just on the internet, pornography, videos, pornography, all of that stuff. And that's when I realized, you know what, I'm in a really bad way and I got to get some help.
But you realized this on your own, Charles, yourself after getting the questions from the doctors and them trying to kind of drill in and hone in on what the problem was that was causing this allergic reaction type of thing,
Hmm.
correct?
Right, right.
So now you realize this, that I'm in a bad space here and I need to
Hmm.
get some help.
Yeah.
What did you do to start seeking the help for yourself first? And
Hmm.
then how did you decide that this is something that I need to also reach out and start helping other people? Because a
Well,
lot of people are in your place,
yeah,
but they don't
yeah,
admit it. They just pride
right.
in this,
Yeah,
oh, wait till everybody's not around and go
right.
in, it's just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world.
Yeah, I often say that addiction is a problem of loneliness, really. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. Ultimately, it's a problem of loneliness. But, me getting help kind of happened over some time. Um, I remember uh, going to see a counselor, a therapist who actually now is extremely, extremely famous. But before that, I was working a job and I remember going to a Subway restaurant to get a sandwich, and on a cork board there was this flyer, and on the flyer they had these lists of people who were going to show up to do these talks at an area that was close to me,
Right.
And when I was a boy, I used to see this particular person on PBS doing these telecommercials or infomercials and stuff like that. And I was
Okay.
intrigued by this man, right?
Mhm.
And I saw on that flyer, this same man was going to be in the area speaking.
Wow.
And there were other people on that flyer, like at the time, before she was, a TV personality, Iyanla Van Zant was on this flyer.
Oh, okay.
hmm Well, the man that was on this flyer, who I saw when I was a kid, was Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Mm.
And because I remember him from seeing him on PBS, I was just intrigued and I was like, I got to see
Yeah.
this. But it was on the day that I had to work.
Okay.
And so what I did was I lied to my boss and everything. And I slid out and I went to this program. But I didn't have a ticket to go to this program.
Okay.
And so I was begging the lady, can I please see this? I don't have a ticket. How much does it cost? She was like, we're full. And I told her how I used to watch Dr. Dyer as a kid. And
Wow.
my family didn't like Dr. Dyer. They didn't like us watching Dr. Dyer. They thought he was heretical. Whatever he was teaching, we don't believe it. That's not us. Okay.
Right.
And she let me in. And not only did she let me in to
Mm.
the event, I got to sit almost right center and see Dr. Dyer.
Wow.
And
But she
when
changed your life just right
yes,
there alone. So
yes,
one learning lesson as we're talking on today's broadcast is don't give up because you never know who's going to be that person that's a blessing that's going to catapult the change in your life too. Go ahead,
yeah.
Charles. Wow.
So I ended up getting to see Dr. Dyer speak at that time.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of like, you know what? I don't know how I'm going to get better, but I got to do something.
Mhm.
And I ended up seeing a therapist um, for on another occasion and just talking about the pain meds, talking about the pornography, and it was really really uncomfortable, but it was also cool because he jumped into the sexual abuse. Like, he was willing. As a man, I had never had a male want to talk to me about it and make it just like a normal conversation. So that was just like, okay, you know what, I can kind of start to talk to myself a little bit about this more.
Mm.
I can start to kind of walk up to this and not feel so unsafe,
That's right.
um, kind of looking at what happened. And
Mm.
again, that was in my mid 20s. I had always been a very empathetic type of boy and young person.
Mhm.
I went to school for psychology and counseling, but I didn't know how I was going to get involved. All right.
Right.
And around the same time that I saw that therapist, I also started working at a group home for
Okay.
boys. Yeah. And it was so great to work at that group home because I was dealing with young boys who were homeless, they were kicked out.
Right.
There were boys who were going through transition.
Mhm.
Okay. When I say transition, I'm talking about transgender. Um, um, and
Okay.
this is at a time when people are like, whoa, what in the world is this? Okay.
Right.
I'll never forget, we dealt with young boys who had eating disorders, which you rarely hear of even today. There was
That's
a
right.
young man who was in residence with us, but he had a job outside of the campus, and we had to go pick him up one day because he fell asleep in the freezer eating a bunch of hamburgers.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but I loved working with these boys, and that really showed me what I wanted to do. it
Okay.
was it was helpful to them that I was there for them, but it was also helpful for me because I continued learning about myself. Okay. And eventually I moved from one boys home to another group home, a larger environment, where that's when I became an AOD counselor. I was working with juvenile sex offenders, victims of rape. I worked with deaf clients and got my ASL certification. And that's when it was just like the wheels started turning. And at the same time I'm helping them, I'm trying to get help for myself. And I realized at that particular moment that there were a lot of men just like me who
Mhm.
were looking very normal, right? Who were just out in society, kind of like, we're bots, we're moving along, but we all got the same backgrounds and none of us are willing to talk openly about it.
Wow.
And so that's kind of where the Barbershop Group got its start.
Okay.
Okay.
So now
Yeah.
you actually, okay, wow, because you're saying so much profound information. A couple of things that I've heard you say is that you start working at this group home, but then at the same time you're still dealing with your own struggles. Is that what you recommend men do, that are dealing with their own struggles, and then also, hey, reach out and try to help somebody else at the same time? Or do you
Mhm.
recommend people get the help they need and
Mhm.
then reach back and try to help those that are in need? Because it's like you're never really fully whole, and so you're kind of
Mhm.
ever evolving. Tell
Yeah.
us the theories on that.
Well, I don't know if it's a theory, but it's definitely experience, I think. One of the things that I have discovered is that is this, Kim, as long as we are all here in this world, we're all in the hospital. Okay. We may be on this different floors, we may have different ailments, but if you're breathing right now, you're in this hospital. And there are certain people on this wing and there are certain people on the other wing, but we're all here. And if you look at hospitals, you'll go in and you'll see a doctor, and that doctor may be overweight, but that doctor's still a doctor, right? You may see a nurse that smokes, but she's still a nurse. Okay, it
Right,
doesn't it
right.
doesn't cancel out. It doesn't cancel out her ability to help you because she smokes, right? There
That's right.
may be an intake specialist or somebody who works in HR that's dealing with some craziness at home. It doesn't mean that they can't function
That's
when
good.
they're,
That's
you
good.
see, we're all in the hospital. So, to people who are out there, they're saying, well, I'm going to get myself together and then I'm going to help somebody else. The truth of the matter is, we're progress, we're progress, we're progress all the way out. And I try to help people understand something that Dr. Dyer said. Dr. Dyer said, you're not a human being having a spiritual experience. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And so when you think in terms of spirit, this is something that never dies. It goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And so, we're always at work. Doesn't matter. And I think I've seen this happen with a lot of men who thought that they made it. Okay. They thought
Right.
that they made it and then they fall. I think about somebody like Jordan Peterson, who is a professor in Canada, who does a lot of, some people say good work, bad work, controversial work. But,
Mhm.
last year, Jordan Peterson, he experienced relapse. His wife was going through a bout with cancer and some other things came up and he relapsed. And, that shocked a lot of his followers because he
Right.
wasn't open about addiction and things. And now he's lost people because folks thought, oh, I thought you had your stuff together. No, we are all human.
Mm.
Many of us who work in mental health, we've got experiences that led us here.
That's
And we
good.
continue to have to work on things every single day, you
So
know.
you think being transparent to the point, like, so in Jordan Peterson's case, as you're referencing him, you believe it's better to be transparent and say you're still a work in progress and you're constantly working on yourself versus acting like you got it all together.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was speaking with a colleague of mine who is a minister, and one of the things that's coming up for African American men who are pastors, reverends, and so all these different titles that exist in the church, right? One of the things that's coming up is a lot of them are struggling to be authentic in the role that they have because they got other stuff going on and they don't know how to integrate it. Okay. So if you look in the last 1, 2 years, you've had so many of these guys kind of step away from ministry,
Right.
right? Or I will use again air quotes, step away from ministry, because a lot of people think that ministry is just standing up there on a rostrum talking to
Right.
people, and it's not.
No,
Ministry is like just you being authentic and open about your life, and people seeing your struggle and your success, and,
that's right.
and being humble and talking to people about it and then walking with other people who are going through similar things.
That's
That's what this is about. And
that's
so for me, yeah, you don't have to you don't have to be open with everybody, but you should be authentic with everybody.
That's really good. I think that's huge. In our church, my husband often says, the church is a hospital for the sick, not a
Mm.
museum for the saints. So
Right.
everybody in the church needs God's grace and mercy too, not just that we're all in here and we have it all together and we're telling everybody else this is how it needs to be. We're all a work in progress, and that is critically important. Let me share a couple of things that's on a flash round where people ask questions, share comments, and you can definitely speak to any of those. Shawn Hall said, good point. Very good
Mm.
point that you're making, sir. Andria Belk says, wow, such a blessing. Shawn Hall said, all of these are topics that people need to hear about our young men, especially Black young men. And all of these other points are points too that you've been sharing. We're all human. So Morgan is typing all of these things in the back office. We're
Mm.
always at work. And yeah, so it's a lot of comments that's coming in like that. And then, oh, my mom said, hey, good morning, Kim, Morgan, Charles, Cassandra, everybody. Very good show.
All right.
We're
All
all a
right.
work in progress. So you've shared some really in-depth things. And I, again, when I was typing the description, I was saying more like men transitioning from prison to
Mm.
their families and society. But this topic is actually much deeper than that. You're talking about men that have addictions,
Mm.
that they need to be honest and transparent about. This
Mm.
industry of pornography was a big topic that you talked about. And it's not a $1 billion industry by itself. People are watching clearly. So it's
Right.
not just something that, oh, nobody's really supporting this industry. A lot of people are supporting. A whole rack of folk are supporting. So these are some intriguing discussions that we're having just with you being on here today. What are
Mm.
some things that the Barbershop Group focuses on? And I have statistics that Morgan, let me share a couple of these statistics. And Morgan did a lot of work to African Americans are incarcerated in state prisons at a rate that is 5.1 times the imprisonment of whites in 5 states: Iowa, Minnesota, New Jersey, Vermont, Wisconsin. The disparity is more than 10 to 1. And
Mm.
in 12 states, more than half of the prison population is Black. In Alabama, Delaware, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Mississippi, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. And we also said Maryland, whose prison population is 72% is African American,
Mm.
tops the nation. So it's so many different statistics, and we'll put where these statistics came from, and you'll be able to have those in the comments section. But I would like to just talk to you.
Mm.
It's from sentencingproject.org, and another one is the Color of Justice as well. We'll put all of those sites for you all to have. But Charles, talk to us about dealing with people that are coming from prison and transitioning back to society with the Barbershop
Yeah.
Group.
Well,
Wait, before you say that, somebody said, hey, he looks like Ludacris. A whole different side note. Cynthia, she just turned 50. She like, girl, wait a minute, let me make a side note. While we're talking about all this serious stuff, he's cute, you know?
um, so those stats that are were mentioned, right? I'll give you some experience with working, doing a AOD program in a federal prison
Mm-hmm.
in Central Ohio. Okay, um, the vast majority of African Americans who we saw were they were sentenced at a larger rate. They got more time. Okay, it took them longer to access mental health care inside of the prison than the whites who were there. We even noticed that the requirements to get into the AOD program at the prison, they were such that they made it very difficult for African American men to even get involved in the AOD program that was there on the prison grounds. Okay.
Wait, what is this program again? Because I was typing in and I want to make
Hmm.
sure I heard what you said.
Yeah. So this was in Central Ohio at one of the federal prisons there.
Okay.
Okay. And so the thing that you'll see a lot of times when you're dealing with the prison population and like AOD stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a lot of these guys don't get mental health help until they're really further along in this whole process. Okay, they're not assessed at the time of after committing a crime. When they're held, they're not assessed. They're not assessed during court proceedings or any of that. They get set up with psychologists and psychiatrists way down the road. Okay. And so you miss opportunities to really address behaviors that might have been impacted by mental illness or AOD issues. Okay. Um, Now, in terms of
What
the
is AOD what does that term mean?
alcohol and drug. Okay, so
Alcohol and drug
alcohol
issues.
and
So
other
alcohol and drug
alcohol and
issues.
other drugs. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, alcohol, other drugs, mental health, they're getting locked up, but no assessments of these.
Yeah, assessments happen very late. Assessments happen very late, where for a lot of white males, assessments happen very early. In fact, some of those assessments happen before they end up in, like, a minimum lockup facility. Sometimes they happen at the county level for a lot of for a lot of white men. And I mean, there's some high profile cases out there where before a person um, is brought up on charges, they'll tell you, oh, this person is going to the hospital for a mental health evaluation.
Okay,
Okay,
right.
that
You
happens.
don't hear
Yeah,
that often, but you're saying that's
hmm
interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
so
So, in
so
terms
sad.
of, yes, it is sad. It is very sad. But one of the things that we try to do now is this. We know that the prison system is not really a rehabilitation system. So there are a lot of other nonprofit organizations out there that are trying to push for more mental health care within the prison systems.
Okay,
Okay. There are even people who work with the prison population who are mental health therapists who will tell you, no, we don't have adequate services.
right,
Okay. They'll tell you that they're doing what they can, but they don't have adequate services. Okay. It's not set up that way. So now there are a lot of organizations that are trying to raise money, that are trying to get access at the state and federal level to be able to go in and give support to
mm,
these guys, real rehabilitation to these guys. Okay. We often find out that a person gets locked up, they'll end up having after effects of drug use, withdrawal of some sort. They've got a detox. A lot of them have to go through that. Then it's like, whoa, you guys didn't know that he was using drugs? Like, how did you not know that? Did you test him? They don't even test him.
right,
Okay, so it's a really crazy thing where police departments, when they arrest someone, there's nobody there to administer a drug test. So you would think something like that might just be standard, right? Because I mean,
right,
you
right.
drug test somebody for a job operating a machine.
That's right. That's right.
You see, why wouldn't you? Yeah, but it's not set up that way. So it's really what we're trying to do is get people to reorient themselves, the way that they think about criminality, the
Right.
way that they think about people's environments and their experiences, and what may have contributed to the poor decision making or the crime that they committed. That's not something that the prison system wants to do.
Right.
That no, it's just it doesn't make the prison money.
So let me
Okay.
understand something. You with the Barbershop Group and your organization, your nonprofit organization, what are you doing working alongside with the prison system to
Mhm.
be able to this is some significant knowledge that you're sharing and
Yeah.
ideas that could
Mhm.
really change the outcome of a person's life. What are you
Right.
doing to lock arms with the prison systems and the judges and the justice?
Mhm. Well, right now, the barbershop group itself, we can't do a whole lot until the people are out. Okay. Now, in my daytime job, okay, as an intake specialist and a group counselor, I can tell you what we see. What we do is we deal with a lot of individuals who are on probation. Okay, and they were previously diagnosed with, like, an addictions issue,
Right.
or may have been in lockup for a minute because they had a DWI, DUI, or something like that. They need to get these points off their license, or some other misdemeanor crimes. Okay.
Right.
Um, one of the things that I do on my day job is this. They have to come in, they've got to go through their AOD education groups. We've got to report that stuff back to their social workers, to their probation officers,
Mhm.
and all of these individuals. Now, the thing that's crazy about it, though, is this. If that person misses, okay, then there's a heavy consequence of them missing that group. Okay. But they don't consider why that person may have missed that group,
Right.
right? Okay. A lot of these individuals don't come from environments with a great deal of support.
Mhm.
So how do I find a ride? Okay. How do I find a ride? Okay. If
That's-
the appointment changed and I don't have a phone, how am I to be notified? Okay. If yeah,
Oh my gosh.
there
I
it
didn't think of any of this. This is deep.
no, but I mean, but it happens, and it happens on a regular basis. And unfortunately, our hands get tied up because all we can do is report it back. Okay. So what I do from that with the barbershop group, I start looking at and talking to people about, look, how do you set up services to kind of bridge the gap? Okay. And so how do you get the probation officer and the social worker to really, really think about all of the supports that this person needs in order to get to the groups, right? To be counted for, right? To meet those demands so that they don't retread, so that they don't end up going backward. Okay. Um, that's one of the reasons why we try to network with other mental health specialists who are able to do sliding scale stuff, do web counseling and whatnot, so that this person may get access. But even then, there are individuals who they don't have access to tech and stuff like that to be able to do it. Okay.
So
Um,
wait, I have a question. How do
yeah.
people do we refer people to the barbershop group? Because I know even in my own personal family,
Hmm.
and it could be an extended cousin or whatever. I know a lot of my friends, we have family members that need your help.
Right.
So how can we as community members get access to the barbershop group
Mhm.
and refer people and they get the help that they need?
Right. So, they can find us online, as at the barbershopgroup.org. We have a profile on many of the mental health sites like Alignable and all of that, where they can find us. You know, the phones are the easiest way today. The internet, we're all over the internet. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We've helped people just because they've seen a post out there. We've helped people gain access to counselors and therapists that work directly with us or people who we're affiliated with. Okay. Um, and
Okay.
so what we try to do is we try to first reach out to the helpers who we know have the bandwidth to help somebody who's coming out, right? We know that somebody who's coming out, they don't have a lot of money. They may not even have their insurance set up yet. So we look at who has a sliding scale,
Okay.
okay, a sliding fee scale, who has a pro bono, or who can do a consultation and refer, right? Or who's affiliated with a community program, all right?
This
Who's
is somebody
affiliated,
coming from prison back to society.
right, right,
Okay,
right.
so when they let me because I want to make sure that everybody understands when a person is coming from getting released from prison, do you get contacted at the barbershop group to come in and start working with them? How do you connect with them?
Hmm. So yesterday, I can tell you, yesterday we got a phone call from an individual. She's got two, three men who are getting ready to get out. I haven't even spoke with her as of yet, but two or three men that are getting ready to get out. And I know that she found us on Alignable. Okay. So they're trying to get set up with services, support services, in addition to having their social worker, their probation officer, and going to groups. They're also trying to find um, uh, people who look like them, right? Who had the experiences, who understand what it was like inside, and then transitioning out. So we have a couple of organizations that we use that we kind of like partner with to help us. address some of their initial need. Okay, so trying to get these guys set up with a cell phone so that they're able to be reached. You
Mm.
know, making sure that their email is active so they're able to be reached. One of the things we tell them all the time is if somebody can't contact you, that's your fault, not theirs. Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
You
yeah,
help
you'll
them with
get
all of these basic
yeah.
skills to help them transition and be a productive citizen in life type of thing as they
Right.
come
I
back
mean, right, right. I mean, a productive citizen, that's a little ways down the road. Right now, it's just what can we do to help you stay away from harm at the moment? All
good.
right. That's really what it's about.
Hmm.
So there, like I said, there are a few organizations out there that we can contact and say, hey, you know what? This person is in need of this type of assistance. Okay. And they put together these packages wherever they are and try to connect with them as soon as possible before they run into any other problems. You know, I know there's, in fact, a couple weeks ago, a guy got out and he'd already missed a group, and his probation officer was like, you know what, taking it away. Let's get ready to go get him. And it's like, dude, he just got out. Like, you didn't even set him up with anything. Well, that's not the probation officer's job
Right.
here. Okay. So it when you hear about this whole prison thing, it really is I I can't even put it into words. I have friends and colleagues again who work directly with people who are getting out, and even they are baffled. They are baffled by how difficult it can be to link these individuals up with services. So that's what we try to step in and help out with. Okay. Now, there is something that you mentioned about prison because you were like, well, we were going to talk about prison and reentry and stuff for a minute, but I want to try to open up the viewer's mind for a minute and understand something about men. Whether he is in a physical prison or not, the vast majority of men that you see out there are living in some type of prison. Okay. So,
Mhm. That is
there,
that's like that's devastating.
okay, yes. Many men are going through a reentry process or trying to go through a reentry process as we speak. Again, whether he is on lockdown or not. Okay, that young man at your church is going through a reentry.
Mm.
Okay, all right. That man that's at your job or was here that he's going through reentry. That person walking down the street who looks aimless is going through reentry. We are all coming from a prison mentality. Okay.
But why? I mean, why? Why is it just society is just taking such a toll on black men? Because I mean, a lot of black men. I could personally name, I can name hundreds of black men
Mhm.
that they're great guys,
Yeah.
but they just have had a bad deck of cards dealt to
Hmm.
them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, and it's environmental, and it's also racism. Okay, and you say, well, which one came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And I'll let other people sit back and have that debate, but I can tell you this: when you combine racism with um, family structures that haven't been supportive and haven't had the supports that they needed, you know, this is what creates this dynamic for black men today. Even poverty. I mean, look, you want to talk about stats. Even those of us who are working, who are gainfully employed, we're
Right.
still only making 51 cents on the dollar that white men are making.
That's a fact.
So
Those are
so
statistical
when you
facts.
think about this, when you think about, you know, because we address financial issues as well, when you think about that, you're like, that's a prison. That's a financial prison.
Wow.
Okay. And the reentry from that is trying to figure out how to get more than that 51 cents on the dollar. Okay. And
Wow.
knowing that, I mean, look at the pandemic. There are a lot of people who were making that 51 cents on the dollar who had that taken away from them.
Right, on top of
You,
everything else, and then these stimulus checks. I don't know. Everybody not getting stimulus checks that I know about. I'm like, where
yeah.
check?
So I like for people to consider what it looks like to go from physical incarceration and reentry into mainstream
Right.
populace, but also to think about every black man out there that you see, and it's like, what's confounding your mind right now? What are you trying to break through? And what thin ice are you walking on?
Right.
Okay, because there's a lot of us who are walking on extremely thin ice.
Right. Right.
Okay, again, that is, it's racism, it's our families or the lack of families, it's our decisions, some of the bad decisions that we've made. All of these things come together to keep us confounded, right? And that's why, honestly, you have some individuals, Kim, who they will find themselves ready to go back into physical incarceration
Right.
because they're like, you know what? I can't do it out here. I'm gonna go back to something that's familiar.
Yes.
I know I'm gonna get three hots in a cot. I know
Right.
my dude in there. You
That's
see what I'm
crazy.
saying?
I know family members that are like, you know what, just here, put me back. And that's
Yeah.
not, I'm like, no, 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 no. We can work
Yeah.
this out. But if I knew about the barbershop group, I would be calling you to say, can you help this family member of mine
Yeah.
that's struggling?
Yeah.
So let me go to a flash round for a second because people in the studio audience are asking questions and giving comments. Shannon says, life is about second chances and everyone deserves a second chance.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's true. I mean, I would like to. It's real that people deserve second chances, but I think that that hasn't entered into the hearts of people yet.
Right.
And it's not to say that it's, I don't want to say it's too idealistic, but I think that there has to be a change that happens in people's hearts to understand that we're human and that we're fallible, that we make mistakes. And unless those mistakes have really, uh, um, taken people out, unless those mistakes that you committed are going to continuously impact people's lives, yeah, we do need to look at a real rehabilitation process for individuals to get them back on track. But unfortunately, everything that we have that makes us money in America, it it, it doesn't support giving somebody a second chance like that.
Wow.
I mean, let's think about it. There are so many things that a person who's been in prison can't do, with a felony can't do. They of course they can't bear arms. They can't vote a lot of times,
Right.
right?
All their rights are taken away.
There there's certain
If
jobs.
you're a person that's getting locked
Mhm.
up, then you
Yeah,
are stripped of all societal
right.
opportunities and rights.
There are certain jobs that they can never ever get. In fact, most of the jobs that a lot of these individuals will be able to get are below the poverty, will put them below the poverty line in the first place.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, we gave them a second chance, but did we give them a second chance to really live to their highest potential,
No.
or are they just bots again, right? Or they just bots? You
Wow.
see, so it's really sad, and it's extremely difficult to address, but that's kind of where we are,
Wow.
and so when I look at that, those are the things that motivate me to help people. um and it's some days it's tiring and it's difficult and it makes me want to break down, but somebody's got to do it.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
taking the bull by the horns and leading the charge. Is this your website, thebarbershopgroup.org?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So also, Morgan, type that into the private chat so I can put it across all of the platforms. Thebarbershopgroup.org is where you can get in touch with Charles Catchings. Refer people like crazy to his program because I know I can just name lots of people that I can refer right away. Are you receive what do you need donations? What are you looking for from the community so
Mhm.
that we can support you? And how can we get you to come back? Because these are discussions we need to be having all the time. This is
Yeah.
like 1 hour is not enough time to tackle what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No.
especially with all of the protesting and all of the stuff that's happening, people need mental resolve right now. It's a lot
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot happening. So I tell people all the time, we need folks to get involved. Okay. We need mentors. We need people who can provide services. Again, because we address 5 areas of life: the spiritual, the mental, the physical, financial, social. We need doctors to come on board who can help men address their physical health. concerns, because as you all know, Black men don't like to go to the doctor.
You said,
And he,
okay, so spiritual, mental, physical, social, and what else?
so spiritual, mental, financial, social. Okay. Um, let's see here. I think I
Right,
got them
that's it.
all.
That's five.
Okay.
Financial
So
and social.
yes, we need medical doctors to come on board who are able to provide sliding fee services to people. And even if it's not sliding fee services to people, we need medical doctors who are able to come in and speak with us on the podcast, to do a show, to uncover some of the physical ailments that men may be struggling with. There are so many men in their 40s who don't realize they're supposed to be getting screened for prostate cancer. They won't do it. You
Wow.
know, there's so many men who have been who've fallen ill or who have died because of COVID-19, because they were like, I'll just tough through it, and you looked up and they couldn't do it. They didn't even see anybody.
Wow.
Okay,
And they
there's
didn't even know to go and just get checked. So you're
they
all
didn't know.
providing a well-rounded, solutions-based program for men from all walks of life, whether they are dealing from imprisonment or dealing with personal imprisonment because they got themselves locked into prison, or dealing with addictions. You're dealing with the whole man.
Yes, yes, we want to see men become fully human, because here is what I believe, and this is where I kind of get a little bit emotional. Okay, is that we've been confounded, like we're not free. There are a lot of people who talking about their freedom, and we're not free. Okay, we may appear to be physically free, but we're suffering inside. Okay, so many men are suffering inside. You don't even know how many men are suffering. They're just going on about the day, and they've checked out of that side of them because it's too much to deal with. you know. And so you look up and you say, man, how did little Pookie do this? Or Drake, what? Drake did this? No, that's not right, man. These men are going through so much that they can't speak about because they're afraid of being judged by women. They're afraid of being, in the case of Black men, they're afraid of being judged by white society. Okay? They're afraid of being judged by their boys. And everybody's going through the same stuff.
Will you come back? And I know I don't usually put people directly on the spot, but I want to know if you'll come back on the Kim Jacobs show and specifically do some role playing. Like,
Mhm.
I like to hear. I'm only just thinking about some things that I believe I could get a whole bunch of people now that I've met you to tune in and hear some scenarios. Here's a scenario. Here's a solution. Here's a
Mhm.
scenario. Here's a solution.
Yeah.
I'm just brainstorming. Would you be willing to come back and do something like that so we can all have in the virtual studio audience men that would want to even hear what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure, sure. And I know that men are very solutions driven. That's one of the reasons why a lot of men don't opt to go to a mental health therapist, is because um, men don't want to sit around and just kind of look at 10, 15 different options. They want, I need this fixed right now. I can come back and address the other stuff later, but I need to deal with this now. Okay. And
Right.
that's how we really have to speak to men. A lot of people, a lot of women think, oh, wait, you can't put him on the spot like that. But believe it or not, putting him on the spot may actually be saving his life. And
Wow.
that's ultimately what he's going to appreciate.
Okay. Wow. 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 Okay. Here, let me. Another comment. Mother Patricia Lofton. She's over like 95 different churches in the state of North Carolina and Virginia, and with women's department, which a lot of the women have husbands and
Mhm.
sons, and so this, she says, God bless you, Charles, and give you strength to continue to carry out your God-given assignment. Man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so listen, everybody. Today's episode, I tried to cram in everything that we could in this 1 hour. We're down to the wire, so we have to bring closure to the show, unfortunately, today. But I will tell you, I definitely would like to recognize my sponsor for today's episode, and that is Deeper Than Beauty. Let me make sure I take a moment to acknowledge our sponsor. Deeper Than Beauty is our sponsor for this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. They have Matt lipstick with a matching liner and a lipstick combination that's combined is $15.99. And if you want the combo of the two colors, it's $24.99. So make sure you know that you can shop at deeperthanbeauty.com. A lot of the statistics that have been shared today were from both of the links that we did provide to you. One is the Color of Justice, which is at sentencingproject.org, and that information has been put there for you. 1 in 3 Black men born in 2001 can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. These are horrible statistics. So, I mean, there's a lot of information that you can go and learn about from some key findings on the Sentencing Project so that we can do everything we can to try to help reverse these statistics. The other rates are on prisonpolicy.org, and it talks about the U.S. incarceration rates by race and ethnicity from the census data in 2010. And there is a huge disparity amongst different nationalities as to who's in prison. 2,306 people that are African American here in this statistics are in prison in that year. Now imagine with Black Lives Matter and all the protesting and all of the stuff that's happening, how significant those rates have increased. So it's just a lot happening in our society. Make sure you all subscribe to the Kim Jacobs Show. If you haven't done that, make sure you take a moment and you actually subscribe to the show. And you do that by going to YouTube. Every time I make this announcement, I'm grateful to know that you guys do take a moment. You go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe, and you turn on your notifications. I greatly appreciate that. Hit that notification bell. It'll say all, and that's how we get you being able to see when the show goes live. If you'd like to support the Kim Jacobs Show financially, all you have to do is send it Cash App, Kim Jacobs Inc., or to paypal.me/Kim Jacobs Inc. And that's the way that your support helps the Kim Jacobs Show so we can provide shows like this. I greatly appreciate you. Okay, and if you'd like to call into the prayer line, that's the final thing. Yes, these are horrible statistics, Lydia. The enemy is after Black men because they are powerful men. Yes. And if you'd like to tune in Monday through Friday to the Quest Church prayer line, Pastor Jacobs is praying for all manner of things, but a lot to focus on COVID-19 because the numbers are still rising. And it's a lot of stuff happening. So make sure you tune in to that 978-990-5000. Access code is 322083#. And that's Monday through Friday from 12 to 12:30. Charles, I want you to have the final words for today's episode. What the barbershop, let me go back because I want to give your ways people can follow you at The Mind Barber.
Yes.
Guys, flood his timeline, follow him on social media, him and his entire group at The Mind Barber. And let's make sure you know his website, which is thebarbershopgroup.org. Wow. I would like for you to have today. I have to say one more announcement, which is important too. Tomorrow's episode, I have joining me Dr. Adrienne Lika, and she's going to be talking about your path to living emotionally healthy and productive. These are great topics. She's a licensed clinical psychologist and CEO of the Legal Group LLC. She'll be on tomorrow's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Charles, before we close out, there are always some things that kind of run through your mind and you're like, oh my goodness, I should have said this. Close us out on today's episode and tell the audience what you'd like for us to know as we close today's show.
Well, as you said, there's a lot that we could talk about, but I think in closing, one of the things that is on my mind at the moment, just because of some reading I was doing this morning, is I was thinking about this man named Jesus, right, being out on the water, and Peter looking out there and seeing what looked like Jesus, right, and he wanted to get out, and he said, "Come on, let's go. You can get out there too." And as soon as he stepped out, Peter got scared and he faltered. I know that what we speak about as men, people like me, and there are many people like me who are talking about their own lives and talking about the work that we're doing. There are a lot of men out there who are afraid, but I'm telling you, you can be better than Peter. You can get out of that boat. You can walk on your own. You've got to do it. If you don't do it, you will not have the life that you want. If it's a job that you're looking at, as long as you're in that boat, you're not going to get that job. If it's a woman that you want to pursue, as long as you're in that boat, that you're not going to get that woman. Okay. If you want to reconnect with people in your life or fix tattered and torn relationships, you can't do it staying in that boat. You have to get out of the boat. And the barbershop group is a way to help you guys get out of the boat. So that's really what I want you all to know.
Mm. You said everything. I can't even think of nothing else to say. I don't want to close this without letting you see this one comment from one of my studio audience members. She said that, Cynthia, my brother is in this situation. He's schizophrenic, bipolar, and in prison. He should be in a hospital. Did you have any comment for her, any advice? Because I don't want to close out with that profound comment there.
Yeah, yeah. Without knowing, like, seeing like histrionics and all that kind of stuff. Again, my focus is chemical dependency counseling, but just knowing a lot about that particular situation, I can say that there are a lot of cases that will present like this where they should have been considering hospitalization. Okay. Um, I don't know all the intricacies about what he was charged with and stuff like that, but I do know that for many whites, especially white males, they'll have an opportunity to look at hospitalization, and then incarceration if it's needed. And in that case, even their incarceration time is shortened, and then hospitalization and everything else becomes a part of their treatment plan. So one of the things that I would say to Cynthia is, if she's got contact with her brother, to like find out if she's on that treatment plan, find out what family members are on that treatment plan and who that can be shared with, because you got to keep their feet to the fire. You want to know how many times they're seeing your brother, what the medication is, what his progress was like. You like all the time. You got to stay on it, because they're betting on family members not really caring, and they're betting on family members not really knowing a lot about what's what they're experiencing and what they're talking about. So you really want to be a part of that healing process, while he's inside, and that will kind of give you some tools to say, hey, look, what else can be done? Because now that he's locked up, obviously there's nothing you can do there outside of good behavior, try to get time served and things like that so he can continue to get help. But you really got to stay involved in that process.
Well, thank you for answering that question, Charles. And I hope that answer has helped you significantly, Cynthia. Thank you for being my guest today on the Kim Jacobs Show, Charles. And I really hope that you'll come back again in the future. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I will. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everybody, thebarbershopgroup.org. See you tomorrow at 11 o'clock